Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar sponsored by Savvly, your personal pension designed to provide lifelong financial security and peace of mind. We are here today with actually the founder of Savvly, Dario Fusato. So welcome, Dario.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course, of course. Obviously, you were high on the list, right? Because you're very much regarded as an expert in this field. Um, I wanted to dive in, first starting off with kind of like, what's the story behind Savvy going into, back to the very beginning? I know you grew up in Italy. Obviously, retirement is very different in Italy than it is in the United States. So kind of, walk us through what happened early on and how that's shaped your perspective on retirement.
I'm originally from Italy, and I grew up in the northern area of Italy where basically I saw my parents retiring and receiving probably about like 95% of the last paycheck as pensions funded by the government. And we know that the system is not sustainable, even though many countries in Europe relied on the system. But um, I never saw any retirement challenging. I didn't grow up in that environment with retirement challenges, and the compounding of lifetime income guaranteed by the government and free healthcare made retirement something totally different from what it is in the US. So when I moved to the US and became a citizen, I basically had this cultural shock where I started and I grew up in an environment where basically there is no retirement planning, and to an environment where, at least in my mind at the time, it was basically impossible to plan for retirement.
Okay. Was there a specific moment or experience where kind of everything hit you at once that you were in over your head and you're like, wait a second, like something is this there's no way to win this game. The pieces don't fit together. Like,
Yeah. So, I mean, like I think everybody can relate with that. So in reality, you never know how long you're going to live and how much money you need to save, right? And then even if you have some guess about your life expectancy and if you have in mind a few numbers in order for you to build your retirement plan, you find out, like I did, that the plan, maybe you can throw it away if you end up in a nursing home facilities or you have super high healthcare costs. So, for instance, I was calling with, I had a call with a friend of mine, is a wealthy individual in the West Coast, and was like, oh, Dario, it's great. I was able to put my mother-in-law in a nursing home facilities, and we just waited like 3 months to find a place for her. And I was like, oh, that's great. And this guy goes, well, it's $17,000 a month, but it's totally worth it because they take care of. And the time was shocked. Say that again, 1,700 or 17,000? So no, 17,000, and that was before the pandemic. And I swear to God, I couldn't sleep that night. I was thinking about, okay, how do I need to do in order not to become a financial burden on my family, on my wives, and so on.
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that certainly, that sounds like a major deal. So you have this perspective, you're like, Jesus, like I don't want to end up a financial burden. So now walk us through how the idea of Savvy came to be.
Yeah, I mean, we had I would say that I have a, what do you call it, a light bulb moment,
Mm-hmm.
um, when you don't really come out with the solution, but you come out with the right question.
Okay.
So
Yeah, yeah. It's
I
always about
really, I would
asking the
say,
right question.
even, I mean, somebody asked me the same question, and I said, well, in reality, my answer was a question, and then the work on solving that question, on answering that question, took more than expected. But the question that really bothered me for, I would say, many months was more or less, like, I'm simplifying, but how do I achieve the highest level of financial security in my later years with the smallest amount of money possible? In other words, how do I gain financial security in retirement for cheap? Okay, that was the beginning of the idea behind the company. That was
Okay.
by far, and I think actually is what we bring new to the market,
Hmm.
is that um, is that a way in which you achieve the same or a better outcome, at least in our point of view, in a way that is more efficient than what we typically do today? And the question is literally, okay, what is the minimalist way so that more people get access to this minimalist way to get the financial security you need for the rest of your life without a huge amount of money?
Okay, awesome. And so how did you, with that goal in mind, right? You're looking to protect from longevity risk. You're looking to make sure that people are secure. You're looking to make sure they have, a reasonable low cost investment option. How did you land on this concept of a personal pension, and what sets it apart from other retirement solutions like 401ks or IRAs or annuities, et cetera?
Oh, a very, very good question. And if the audience is interested, I can share some of our journey. So the question that I had in mind and came out as a driver and of building of the Savvly product. And the Savvly product is basically this fund that pays you when it's supposed to is designed to pay you when you live a long life, and it's supposed to provide way more income than you would do on your own, because there is an element of pooling. And the concept was basically driven by the fact that if you think about life insurance pays your family, right? If you die young because you want to protect your own family, but when you become old, you are a concern on your own, and it pays you if you live a long life. And so the beginning of the company was literally, okay, can we build this type of vehicle, this type of product? Then what happened is that I had the privilege to meet a couple of very well-known leaders in retirement planning, and they work for both governments and large financial institutions. And they said, well, this is a great thing what you build, but is there a better way to make it more accessible to everyone? Is there a way for which you can build a product that is, if you wish, uh, retirement in a box, so that people don't have to think about retirement any longer. They just know that they save and that they will accumulate very well when they're retired. And so we came out with this concept of pension, like you mentioned, which is basically a very diversified and balanced portfolio that you may have already on your IRA, 401ks, and so on. But we add a small portion, a small slice of the Savvy fund that extend your retirement duration. So that was the answer to question one, right? Which is, how do you come up with this pension? And the answer is that, we actually designed the fund, and then we realized that we wanted to build the fund as part of an overall portfolio.
Yep, yep. So it sounds like there are two important steps here. One is, how do we design a fund that targets the pure longevity risk problem, and then
Mm-hmm.
how do we integrate that into a solution that's a broader portfolio solution that everybody can understand? Because if you're just taking the longevity solution by itself, in a certain context, the financial advisor can be deployed very effectively, but it may not be as accessible knowledge-wise to the average person.
Yeah, exactly. And so the idea was retirement is very confusing. If you, I don't know, you're in Austin, right? Today, if you go down the street and you stop somebody, you say, okay, what is a qualified plan? What is a non-qualified plan? What's an IRA? What's the Roth? What's the 401k? What's an SAP? I mean, it's super complicated.
Sure.
And I actually realized that coming from another country I didn't lose competitive advantage, meaning that nobody else knew anything. So it's like, okay, I'm not the only one. It's not because of a funny accent that I have this challenge. Everybody around me has the same challenge. And
Yep.
so the idea was, once you build a product that allows people to spend more or retire earlier because they know they have a lifeline that takes care of them when they get old, what is the best solution to work with the same clients when they are 18, 19, 20, where on top of the lifeline, they want to save for retirement, but they also want access to the money. They want to be able to spend it if they need it, right? But still, they want to build this kind of personal pension that gives them um, um, the financial security they need for the rest of their lives without spending a huge amount of money. Um, so that was basically the beginning of the company. We built it. We started from a question. The question, I think, was actually decent questions. Nobody asked that question initially, and then we came out with a solution, and the solution was great, but was addressing just, let's say, one of the fears and the challenges of retirement in the U.S. And then we said, okay, how can we address the general retirement challenge with the retirement in a box type of product so that everybody can get access to.
Okay.
So that was actually the result of very well-known individuals. And I remember I met with this person for more than 2 hours, Q&A. And after 2 hours said, okay, made comments about the product. And they said, okay, now the next step is to simplify. And we delivered the pension. I have to say that another meeting that I had for your audience, if he's interested, with very well-known extremely well-known investors, they said, "Well, this product is great. You guys are thinking about selling through advisors and maybe employers in the futures, and so on. But why don't you think about direct to consumer? Why don't you think about a platform that makes this product accessible to everyone?" And that is actually why we are starting exactly with this direct to consumer platform. This is available starting online. So people who are actually 18, 20, 30. I have to say that there is a very well-known robot surgeon in the world, and one of the top, in the world. And also my wife contributed to some of the value propositions that we're building. And so we are building this company as a balance between the super, let's say, expert and the non-experts. Together, we are trying to find a solution that works for everyone. And those guys were like, well, I don't want to be educated about retirement. And this guy,
Hey, just tell me where to put my money. Like, I don't.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me, I need a checkbook. I mean, I don't need to know how the Uber application works, right? I just know I get out and I go from A to B. And there are so many things I don't know. I'm a very well respected doctor, and people want to educate me. I cannot be educated on everything, and I don't really care. Or my wife says, well, I need to think about the new clients. I need to think about my employees. I need to think about so many things. Why do I need to study, how to implement a very sophisticated product or benefit, to my employees? And so the idea was, okay, is there a way we can build a product that kind of fits almost everyone? Because everybody would like to have, like my parents had, maybe 90% of their retirement or their paychecks, into retirement for the rest of their lives. So the idea is that is there a product that fits everybody's 99% of the people in the country?
Okay. So here's a question for you. What do you think are the biggest misconceptions people have about retirement, and how does Savvly help address those misconceptions or concerns?
I think there are a number of them. I think that, and unfortunately, I kind of fit with almost all of them. But one is that most of us think that they can start saving later. So you kind of procrastinate and you decide, okay, I'm going to open this. I recognize I need to start saving for retirement, but I'll do it tomorrow or next week or next year, when I think the market is not as high, or when I think that I'm going to have a little bit more money to save and so on. So that's for sure number one. The number two, I think that most people, that wasn't actually my case, but a lot of people think that they will not need, let's say, long-term care or kind of nursing home access and facilities. So I think that the idea that most of my friends have is, nursing home, or no worries. I mean, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be dead. And the third, which is what I actually think very often, And I don't know, and I know that I made a mistake, but it's natural answer to a big like elephant in the room, which is okay, how do I plan long term? Is that we generally think that when we retire, we can downsize our cost structure. So I don't know, I sell the house, I move to this place, lower cost of living, and so on. And then people typically remain where they are. And the last one that comes to mind is that people think that, okay, after they get their social security checks or just before it, they keep working even when they are in their 70s and so on, which is true. But the challenge is, what if you live until 100, right? I mean, you cannot keep working until 100. I mean, typically many of us, they can't.
Yeah. So just to summarize for the audience, you said, you can call these almost like the four myths of retirement, right? One is people are like, oh, I can just start saving later. It's not a big deal. Two is that I don't have to worry about long-term care. Three is that I can just downsize and that will allow me to solve the problems. And the fourth is that, well, I can just keep working if I have to. So if those are all the myths and those all have their drawbacks, how does Savvly help address that situation and avoid those traps and those drawbacks and cover those risks?
Yeah, no, so very good question. Well, first of all, you can start saving today without a big cognitive effort, right? When you go through a typical brokerage application, there are so many questions, and you don't really know unless you're an expert in retirement. You've been educated, like my friends don't want to be educated. You need to answer difficult questions, and those questions are driving your investment portfolio, which is not really what you want to do in retirement. So, for instance, if you are very young, okay, you should be aggressive. And by aggressive, meaning that you need to own the overall market, you need to have method of investing and so on. So Savvly addresses this idea that you can start saving later because I don't know what to do. And instead, I mean, the Savvly pension is available if you are 18. On the long-term care, which is like the nightmare of ending up in a nursing home facility at $17,000 a month, the great things about Savvly and how it operates, the Savvly fund is designed to give significantly higher investment gains than a regular fund. And so it's designed to give you way more money when you live a longer life, which is exactly, it's very much correlated with when you end up with long-term care needs. We don't do much about what was the third one? Was downsizing, right?
Downsizing that
Well,
people.
we don't kick you out. We don't force you to move. But the great things about the number four, which was I think was about you keep working, right? Even after you
Yeah.
retire. The great things about Savvy is that you keep working, you can put the money into the fund, even though you are still you're in the 70s and 80s, and the money is invested in a brokerage accounts that is delivering market returns.
Well, I mean, ideally, if somebody's allocated intelligently and they have that tail risk of longevity covered, they might not need to keep working if they're in their 70s. If they don't.
Yeah, that's the hope. That's actually is the hope, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, to do that, you need to start saving early, and you need to do it in a very low cost, efficient way. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so you mentioned this slug of the personal pension that's allocated towards hedging longevity risk, right? The pure Savvy play. Can you explain how that works in simple terms for our audience and why it has the ability to provide that longevity hedge benefit?
Yeah. So the basic concept is that clients invest in the pension, and we take a portion of this investment and we allocate it to the Savvy fund on top of the bonds and equities from the largest investment companies. The Savvy fund buys an ETF of the S&P 500 from the biggest players in the country and invest it over time. When you invest in the Savvy fund, you commit to leave the money into the fund, even though you can take the money out. But if you take the money out, you have a potentially an early withdrawal charge. so that their investment gains that you made in this tiny fraction of your portfolio and potentially a fraction of your principals gets relocated to everybody else's that is in the fund. And that reallocation is generating an investment gain that is on top of the investment gains of the funds that Savvly purchased, that in our case is an S&P 500 index fund. So by design, the Savvly fund is built to outperform the S&P 500 for those who remain in the Savvly fund. Starting late in life, the Savvly funds is accessible to clients, and that additional income that is coming from the compounding of the S&P 500 by the compounding of the early withdrawal charges generates and builds a lifeline that is designed to replenish your accounts before you run out of money.
Okay.
So the concept is, if you think about life insurance, right, again, pays your family when you die young, but the Savvly fund pays you when you live a long life. How does it pay you? It replenishes your accounts. So the longer you live, the more money it means.
It's basically like it's the reverse of term life insurance.
It is actually, it's not insurance, but it's the reverse of term life insurance.
Yeah. So it's like insurance. People pool money to protect themselves against the risk of dying young. Whereas in this case, you're talking about people are pooling money to protect against the risk of living a long life. And so, if you end up dying young and not needing that because you died young, then other people in the pool then can benefit from it. And then if you live a long life, then you can benefit from it. And that way you don't have this kind of mismatch where everybody's trying to protect against this tail risk scenario, because that would require far more resources than everybody has.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's worth to point out that it doesn't make sense to pool all your money with anybody else's, right? But it makes sense to pool a marginal fraction of your money.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're young, that is worth nothing, with other investors. If you basically take advantage, you can take advantage of it later in life. So for those of you guys who are listening and are very sophisticated, basically I think until Savvly, lifetime income was generated by investing in investment vehicles that are very much stable, because you need to generate $8,000 a month or $10,000 a month or $100 a month stable. And that concept generates a huge amount of inefficiency, because you basically stay for the entire duration of retirement plus the accumulation on an investment vehicle that historically has not generated high income. So you lose money on the investment product. Then you have a lot of inefficiency driven by hedges and problems to make sure that the volatility of the market doesn't change too much. So what really happens is that we mitigate the longevity risk by mitigating the tail risk of living a long life. And once you have a lifeline, those payouts coming from the Savvly fund, you can optimize the accumulation. That was a parenthesis for those of you, your listeners who are technically savvy. So exactly the opposite of my very sophisticated doctors and robot surgeon architects and so on. Okay. We don't want savvy.
Well, so just to simplify for people, a lot of the other lifetime income approaches have these inefficiencies that are dealt with mitigating, other things and stuff in the system and et cetera. And Savvly just took a lot of that out and focused on just the longevity risk so that you can particularly target that particular component in a way that allows you to have a lot less drag and a lot higher growth overall.
Yeah, but not only that, but what and we don't have anything against any other longevity solutions. Okay, every product fits a specific category of clients. So what I'm saying is that, especially if you start young and you invest early, right, you need to be in the market. Why you need to be in the market? Because it's the most efficient place to put your money. If the market crashes for a long period of time, forget about everything else where you have your money safe, right?
Yeah, so if the S&P doesn't go up over 30 years, like we got bigger issues.
Yeah, we have a bigger problem than the tiny fraction that you invested in Savvly. So the concept is, okay, if that is the case, is that a good way for which you um, can simplify your retirement? And let's say you are those in your audience, the guys that are in your audience who are, let's say, 60, if they knew that when they turn 75, $1 million is coming into their account, right? For the first time, they feel like, okay, gosh, I have 15 years in which I can plan how to spend my money or invest it, because in any case, I have a lifeline. So the concept of embedding a lifeline in a retirement portfolio, okay, generates a peace of mind that each one of us probably need. Unless you're worth more than 10, 15 million, okay, you have this challenge.
Okay. So looking forward, what do you see as the future of Savvly? What's up next? What do you see over the next 5 to 10 years? What's in the road ahead for Savvly?
So we have a huge plan in front of us. We would like to obviously working to with the entire financial services industries in the country, and maybe even bigger if we can, more than a country. We would like to address our customers' needs with more products that follow the same approach, if you wish, the minimalist approach, the maximum efficiency approach of Savvly. And we would like to expand the market for longevity solutions. If you think about the market of longevity solutions, most of them is driven by insurance products around the world. But that market is accessible only to people who have a specific net worth, they have a specific age, they have a specific risk appetite. And the concept that we would like to bring into the world, into the US first, is, okay, is there a better way in which we can build these private market-driven pensions that is designed to actually bring Americas back to the time where pensions were available to everyone, but those pensions are market-driven and they are portable, so you can move from one employer to another one and maybe even get a higher paycheck from your employers. You don't get stuck to employer A just because you have a pension, right? So there's a higher access to mobility. That is something that's super valuable. We are into efficiency in financial services.
Okay. So you're looking to, kind of push that movement forward in general.
Yeah, I would say that Savvy, before being a company, is a movement of people who recognize that change is needed in retirement. They see it every day. They see their parents, they see their children growing up, and they want to expand this concept of peace of mind to everyone.
Yep. So before we wrap up, what do you hope people take away from hearing what you've said today and from, taking a look at Savvy and having that in their world? What do you hope people
Well,
learn or do or shift beliefs on?
so I would really like to have them, well, if I may, consider us in their future. I would recommend them to just check the website, take a look at what they're doing. If anybody who's listening is very interested in either working with us or partnering with us or following us on our journey, they should just reach out to me via email or via LinkedIn and start the conversations.
And what is your email for people?
So it's Dario, my first name, at savvly.com. So very easy. And I think I answer all the emails. Please, no spam. I already received way too much. But that would be super valuable. And we really have, this company was started to answer a personal problem, right? If you think about the person who's ignorant in retirement, okay, like me, and it's coming from, let's say, the Southern Europe, where the quality of life is very high because the government uh, provided the financial security that we know is not sustainable long term, right? And then you come to the US. Now, the US has a very similar problem. Okay, everybody says, well, financial social security is not enough, and who knows actually if we will be there in 30 years from now. And then you have more uncertainty today than 20 years from now because longevity risk is becoming more important, number one. And number two, nursing home facility and healthcare are very expensive. So the idea of financial planning in retirement is very valuable, but we have more unknowns than equations to solve for, right? So there's this level of insecurity that I think may impact the psychology and the well-being of people. At least it did it for me. So I was actually stressed out about this problem. And I was lucky. So I wasn't the poorest in the country, right? But if I'm stressed out, think about also half of the population must be stressed out.
Sure, sure. Well, thank you for providing a solution to help people with that. So, and hopefully, people will reach out to you at dario@savvly.com, or they'll go hit you up on LinkedIn. Dario Fusato, you guys can see his spelling here on the little Zoom. And so with that said, thank you, Dario, for coming on. Thank you for sharing your journey and for building what you've built. And everyone, this
Okay.
has been sponsored by Savvly, your personal pension designed to provide lifelong financial security and peace of mind. Have a wonderful day.